Hello, welcome to another episode of the PoliChat podcast. As always, we are excited to be here to have conversations with different kinds of people. And as you will realize, last week we brought Monopoly, who is contesting as a member of parliament for Maracha constituency. And this week, again, we want to bring a young voice on the podcast to see that we have a good representation of the youth on the show. Well, my good friend Alionzi Lawrence, the former guild president for Makerere University, who served for 2 months, 3 months, he's with me today. You're most welcome on the podcast.
Thank you, Joanne. Thank you for having me.
You look big compared to what we saw when you were contesting, when you were campaigning.
It's
as
been
the
a while
guild president.
now.
The cheeks are bigger, the stomach.
It's been a while. We thank God.
You're
We
doing
thank
well.
God.
Recently I was seeing the ranking of universities, and it seems like our prestigious university seems to be dropping in terms of standards, in terms of the ranking, global ranking. We are not doing certainly well. I'm quite sure you've looked at the rankings. What's your take on that, first of all?
We have been, maybe that's before I say anything.
Yeah.
I personally think you're doing amazing. I think you're doing amazing stuff here.
Thank you so much.
And I am only pleasured to be a part of
Thank
this
you.
amazing thing that you're doing. Makerere University has been on that sloping trend for a while now. Because you see, the university, even from its name, is more than just lecture rooms and research labs and all those things. And every other thing that happens outside of those two that I've mentioned that perhaps we could consider basic, and not blame the university administration for focusing on them. The other things like the quality of student life, the welfare of the students, the welfare of lecturers, all contribute to that particular thing. Of course, it depends on the ranking you're referred to, but generally Makerere University has been on that sloping
I'm
trend.
referring to the Times Higher Education World University rankings that were released this year, where Makerere is around number 1,201st out of around 1,500 universities that were ranked. And I think this was covered by the New Vision as well. And it really intrigued me a lot because, yes, it has maintained its position in the country as number one. Sub-Saharan Africa, I think it's number 8th or 7th. But someone would really think that with the levels of innovation that are coming out of the university, we should be in the top 5 in the Sub-Saharan, or top 3 in the Sub-Saharan. But the South African universities are dominating.
You see, Joe, at the end of the day, if you're a village champion, that is all that you are. And
What do you mean?
you will not be called entirely champion. You will only be a village champion. Makerere University at its level cannot now have bragging rights over being the first one in the country, because I think Makerere University should pursue things better than that. Like I said, that ranking you have referred to depends, because different rankings have different considerations. Some rankings depend entirely on the research that you put in. What we have done with Makerere University now, we have done more marketing, right? The innovations you are referred to, because they are marketed more than they used to. But the truth of the matter is, there's something significantly wrong at Makerere University. Both people, every stakeholder at Makerere University agrees with this. And in terms of the rankings, at least every ranking has a consideration for research. But who does research? Students and staff.
Yes.
Right? And beyond the academic knowledge, the other elements of research like facilitation, but also staff motivation. Perhaps in the history of Makerere University, this could be the time when the staff are least motivated by the actions of the leadership at the university. And even the students are not anywhere near there. Perhaps the staff are trying because the academics to put in work, but the students are not anywhere near the arena of research. And perhaps this could be also the time in history when Makerere University students feel least as part of the university. Because if you belong to an institution, perhaps like your podcast here, how much you feel affiliated to it determines the amount of work you're going to put into to put its name out there. And for me, perhaps that could be the explanation. But what we can agree on is that something must be done at the Ivory Tower.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Well, let's shift our attention to probably the major reason why we brought you on the show. In January this year, you were blessed in Aivuni by a section of elders in Aivu. I remember in that blessing, I also saw the Honorable Atiku Bernard and some young people as well. And the blessing was aimed towards, preparing you for leadership of Arua City as the Lord Mayor. I wanted you to give us a background of how you got here.
Okay. Thank you, Joe. Most times when people see me, and more often than it is not, they assume perhaps I was well brought up by the community, yes, but perhaps they assume I was born to some vibrant middle class parents who pointed me in the right direction. They couldn't be farther from the truth. And just to give you context to start this particular segment of the conversation, there was a very famous debate at our home. My father alleged that he stopped in P2. My mother argued that my father stopped in P1. Towards his death in 2013, we resolved as a family that my father was indeed a P1 material, not a P2 material. For my mother, there was absolutely no debate because we were all sure, including herself, that she didn't step anywhere near a classroom. So my parents were peasants in the sense of the word. I went to different boys' primary school for all the 7 years. Though it's not long ago, but at the time, nursery education was a privilege the family could not afford. Thank God, I'm born and raised in a Diofe entirely. So it was just appropriate. I went to different boys' primary school that was quite close for all the 7 years. I am so glad that at our time, there were not really fees that were paying. I still remember we just used to pay some little amount of money for CRE around second term, I think. That was set by the diocese, but really we were not paying, because if that was the case, then I wouldn't have reached P7. But P7 was where things happened. In fact, the boys, you'll see, they didn't really have the infrastructural glamour. The school did not have fancy classrooms. And majority of the classrooms didn't even have windows at the time, and sometimes if you just want, the teacher will be writing on the chalkboard and you exit through the window and you go home if you are not coping up with the class. But P7 was where things got serious, and the school was strategic. They will place their best teachers in P6 and P7. You will actually not recognize the school when you reach P6 and P7. And not just serious, not the teaching, but also there were some payments to be made. Particularly, I would like to make reference to, we used to do paper practice in P7 by a company in Kampala called Cipro. All that paper was sacred.
I also did that as
so
well.
So after every 2 weeks we would do. But we had to pay 17,000 for every paper practice. For the very first 2 paper practices, we'll pay 17,000 per term. And I think we'll do a couple of them within that same amount of money. I was sent home 17 times for 17,000 Ugandan shillings. And I could tell you, if we had time, I could tell about each one of those moments. Of course, at first they will send me, I will sneak back in. They will send me like I had done really for most of my time in primary. But this one time I think I was like, this is enough. Because even the poor people in class had paid. You know, when they started sending you out, they first send you like you're 15, then they send you when you're 5, then they send you out when you're 2, then I was left alone. Because at the time, my dad was already ill. My mother did really some small business. She makes this local brewery called Kwete, and they sell, and the family was living on that. Now you can imagine the profit on that business can be like 1,000 per day. So even to ask my mom for 17,000 would be like an insult. So most of the time they will send me home and I will actually not ask her. I will just go home, take off the uniform, go to do some work, and go to play. But this 17th time I was walking home, around 11 a.m. in the morning, and I decided now to use the main road to walk home. My final walk from school, knowing this will be my last time to go to school. I meet a good Samaritan who asks me why I'm coming home, a paternal uncle of mine. So I tell him the reason that I am sick. I didn't want to bother him. So I tell him I am sick. But the following day he again finds me home. So he says, if you're sick up to now, have you gotten medication? So you sit on my motorcycle, I take you to the hospital. And that's when I realized that I was now in trouble and had to tell him the truth. So this guy carried me to the Chedefe boys and paid, not just for that term, for the other times to come. And so I can assure you that I matured in that moment. The boy in me was kicked out by that harsh reality of life. And then I realized that for me, and like I've often said, for many people in my shoes, education is not just another sector of the economy. Education is a real shot at life. And for many of us, it was the only one. And that dawned on me at about 11 years of age, when I was about to make 12 years. And then I realized that I had to actually take my academics seriously. And I can assure you that before that, I was not really performing. Stubbornness took the larger part of my daily life. I ended up sitting for P7 and becoming the second best. It was a shock to everybody, including my classmates. I got 8 aggregates.
Wow.
And when I got 8 aggregates, I knew when we were going to PLE, because the cheapest school then I think was Nile High, if you're on there, and they were paying about 70,000. But like I have told you, even to ask that from people at home will be an insult in a way, will be a financial insult. So I knew that P7 was where I would get
the end
done.
of your school, yeah.
And I still remember even as a young boy praying that, God, if this is going to be where I will stop, then let me stop well. Let it be a good stop. Let me at least get first grade. So when I go to sit at home, I sit at home with a first grade paper. But God had other plans. When the results came back, my grandmother, who is one of my real heroes in life, took me and we came to Arua Public Arua Public Secondary School. I was supposed to go to Arua Public. When we came to Arua Public, my grandmother pleaded. I still even remember her kneeling in the office of the HM to let me study, and perhaps God will make a way. And the HM asked, can he at least pay money for requirements? My grandmother had another set of problems to narrate. And the HM said, let the boy just come. So I went to Arua Public for about 2 days with no requirement, no uniform, and with the books I was using in P7.
Wow.
But the Good Samaritan I already referred to, my paternal uncle, having gotten knowledge of my results, realized that I could do better. There were all these problems at home. He thought it would be inappropriate for me to study as a day scholar because it will be hard to concentrate when there are all these problems at home. So he opted to send me to Pokia Seminary. So I ended up going to Pokia Seminary 1 month after senior ones had reported. But because I had realized that for me, education perhaps was one single shot, like a deer that only has one route to escape from the threat of being eaten by a lion. I then ran at the speed of such a deer. I led my class from senior 1 to senior 4.
Wow. That was at Arua Public?
No, at Pokia Seminary
Pokia
now.
Seminary, yes.
I led my class from senior 1 to senior 4 every term until UNEB. And I did senior 4. And unfortunately, around senior 3, the Good Samaritan I have already referred to severally in what our sources said, got a little bit of hiccup in his life, so he could not continue paying. But the school had sent my results that you could not send away somebody who clearly knew was going to. And it was a seminary school. They were really kind people. The administration of the seminary was really kind. So they allowed me to continue studying. So I also finished senior 4 knowing that there's no A level for me. And the prayer was that, God, if this is it, then let it also be a good end for me. Let me end it well. And God was again gracious. And I did perform well. And I sat at home for again another 1 month when senior 5 students had already reported. Again, one Wednesday morning, I was from doing some cleaning around the house. So I had sat just near the road our home is quite near the road.
Yeah.
So there was a gentleman who had gone to study. He had gone to study, I think, in Kampala, those ends. He was called Bill.
Yeah.
We're very good friends now. So Bill met me, and Bill asked me why I was at home. I told Bill, even if I wanted, I really want to go to school, but it's not possible.
It's not possible. Yeah.
It's not possible, and I have made peace with that. Bill said there might just be one more chance. So there was a schools in Kampala, and I think up to now, what they do is that they come to up country and get kids that have performed well,
Yeah.
take them to Kampala to study on bursary,
Exactly.
so that they perform well and use that for marketing.
Yeah.
So we are the marketing kids.
Okay.
So I was taken to all of Africa, but it's really a good thing. It gave a chance for many of us. I went to all of Africa, Namiliango,
Oh,
in
nice.
Mukono,
Oh, nice.
in Seta, for A level.
Yeah.
I did PCM, and I knew that the 2 years were again, because if you went for the 2 years and you didn't get government sponsorship, you'll have to come back to Arua. And that might be because the first time I went to Kampala was when I was going for senior 5 in 2017.
Yeah.
That is the first time I went to Kampala. And I still remember how I felt abandoned because I was left at Arua Park.
Yeah. You had to find your way to that school.
You had to find your way to the school and had to
Yeah.
look for somebody who speaks Lugbarati, get
Yeah.
the border, and he takes you up to Seta. And the 2 years, Joe, were entirely reading. Even at university, I did not read as much as I read in A level. And I scored 20 points. I
Wow.
came top at the school. So A in physics, A in chemistry, and A in mathematics.
Yeah.
And indeed, I got the government sponsorship. So I was admitted at Makerere University to do Bachelor's of Science in Electrical Engineering,
Yeah.
which I graduated with on 2nd of February 2024.
Yes, nice.
So yeah, and since then I consider myself a career electrical engineer
Yeah.
and a part-time leader when the people call upon. Like we used to say in Pokea, Vox Populi, Vox Dei. The voice of the people is a voice of God, and we consider it a curse
Yeah.
to not to listen to that voice. And oftentimes the people have often called, and I have responded. So perhaps we are sitting here at the backdrop
Yeah.
of this academic journey I have just narrated.
Okay.
Yes.
So as I mentioned earlier, the blessing you received in January this year, I wanted you to give us a background of how you came about being blessed
Okay.
to run for leadership of Arua City, particularly as a mayor, but also as a young person.
Okay.
If you could just give us a background to how we
Okay.
have reached here.
Joe, for me in my life, I have never woken up one day to say, now tomorrow, I am going to run for this particular position. All the times I have served, it has been a very vivid call from the people who were to be served. Because I can't say everybody, but from
Yeah.
a really gigantic section of those people.
Yeah.
But I often say that if you read from the Christian Bible to the Muslim Quran to the Jewish Torah, all men and women who have served their fellow men and women with excellence and were called directed by God were first hesitant to do so. Whether we talk about David, who was fetched as a very young boy from keeping the sheep in the garden, to Muhammad, who hid in the cave when the angel called for him, to many other examples we could refer to. My story is not different. At Pokea Seminary, I served as the assistant head prefect. And it is that moment that a man was born out of a boy at Pokea Seminary. I treasure Makerere University so much, and my time there is a very significant part of my life story and will forever be. But Pokea Seminary is even a bigger story of mine. But the students of Pokea Seminary elected me as assistant head prefect when I was home because I was sent for fees in my absence. And I came back 5 days after the election and realized that I was already elected assistant head prefect. But at Pokea, the assistant head prefect was very significant. The responsibilities were immense. First of all, the head prefect had his own office. So I had an office in senior 3. That was in about 2015, when I was 15 years old. And I was already listening to disciplinary cases of students and deciding on them when I was 15 years old. And we will write a recommendation at the end of every term to decide whether a particular student should remain or go home. A huge responsibility it was. When I went to Makerere University, I found a very thriving community of Makerere University Logbara Students Union. That was an umbrella body for students at Makerere University that came from the 5 Logbara speaking districts. And the students elected me within 1 year as the head of year ones and as speaker of the union. And later on I became the planning minister. And that is where the magic happened. Now, we realized, but all this happened because people said, like, and for all these positions I have mentioned, it was only the first one where I had an opponent, the others I didn't have. People were like, this gentleman has served. Let him go through. You guy can go to a particular place. And people will bring for me, we think you should run for this position. And I can assure you that at each of them, I did my absolute best. And there's a track record. If you had time, I could speak to the specifics of each. But after my time there, actually while I was still serving, we were like, but look, the work that we do in this small union within the university is really significant. And why don't, at the time, there are not very few students from West Nile who are running in the mainstream university politics of students. And so we said, why don't we give this thing a try? Like, we have all these guys who have done really well, but we're not seeing anybody with the name Alionzi or with the name Adrati or with the name Pario in the mainstream university politics. So we gave it a try. I contested for the speaker of the hall, Northcote, where I was. And I had a landslide victory. I was in year 2. I contested against a year 4 student of medicine, and the hall had 85% medicine students. I won it. And then in that holiday I came home. Me and 3 of my friends were doing a tour, a self-initiated tour in West Nile. We went to every district, all the 13 districts, including the city in West Nile, speaking to youth leaders on our own budget. We mobilized some money, hired some rugged car, and moved to 13 districts. We were going to 2 places per day and sleeping where people could accommodate us. We spoke to youth leaders. We had no agenda, but we just thought that we had a leadership philosophy that we needed to spread. And 4 of us set out. We started in Koboko, we went to Maracha, and I think the youth leaders still remember the ones we went and spoke to. So while I was on the boat in Germany, the students of Northcote nominated me unopposed to run for chairman. And when I returned, I was unopposed running for chairman. But in that same election, some colleagues were running for guild presidency, and the university suspended them on grounds that they had a legal gathering. And so when they were suspended, the students, there was in their eyes some leadership crisis. And when they looked around, they then asked me to run for guild president. And I can tell you in that moment, whereas I was interested, absolutely interested, I was very desirous of being guild president of the nation's most prestigious and the region's most prestigious high institutions of learning. I knew that boy from a Diofe, born to true peasants, whose parents never saw a classroom, whose academic journey was defined with uncertainties, to desire to be guild president perhaps could be greed of me to ask of God. So I ran out like Jonah. Whereas I didn't have money to run for 3 days and be away for 3 days, I read and hid at my friend's place in Chikoni until when I knew nominations were closed. But students got for me nomination form, paid nomination fees, got signatures, and nominated me to run for guild presidency. And indeed I ran. And the election happened, and I won, and that became the greatest honor of my entire adult life. But also set pace for me to be exposed. I tell people that I believe that Cristiano Ronaldo or Messi, depending on which side of the aisle you are on, Joe, though I know you're on the side of Cristiano Ronaldo, that those two are not the best players. You're on the side of Messi. Yeah. That's a very pleasant surprise for me. But I believe that those two are not the best players in the world. They're the best known players in the world. There could be a kid in Rukunziri who dribbles better than Messi, but has never had the chance either to nurture his talent or to be exposed to that level. So I am glad and very humble that I got the chance. I am even more humble that I was the first guild president in the 100 years of Makerere University to come from West Nile. There are many people who tried in the past, but the breakthrough came at my time. But what really gives me pleasure in all this is that small action became a seed of hope and a bud of faith for so many other people. Now, when you look at the students' guild structure, you find so many students from West Nile that can now contest in the university leadership and participate under ministers at GRC, and it will not be long before we get a second after me. Yeah. And so you had asked about, so what happened was that, so the similar story happened when I got done. I did a Thanksgiving mass at home, like it was the tradition of the family to thank God for every small achievement that we encountered. I did a Thanksgiving mass, and I got the chance to interact with so many other people. And I had, me and my team had already been thinking. But while we're in the thinking process of this, we had an engagement with a group of elders that you referred to. And once again, the people called. And this time round, it was in local government to serve as the mayor for Arua City, for this young city. And it was their thought, and I absolutely agreed, among many other reasons, that whereas the old broom knows all the corners, a new broom sweeps better. But what if you have a new place? Would you then opt for an old broom?
Was it an instant acceptance, or you first gave it a thought before?
No. I told them how grateful I was, and I told them at a personal level, they can have my assurance that they will have positive consideration from me. But but wisdom demanded that I give this more thought than I had done previously, or I had done at the moment of having that conversation. But it wasn't long before we met again to start on how exactly then do we pursue this particular dream. Yes.
When these elders called you to share with you the idea that they would love you to contest as the Lord Mayor for Arua City, what were the reasons they gave you for specifically pointing you out of the many people that probably come out of our community here?
Now, even before I answer that particular question, I do not want the implication of this particular statement to be that my running was entirely the ask of the elders. It was a huge push for me to make a decision. But I can tell at a personal level, I was already considering. Look, I have looked at leadership in this country at both national, regional, and local government level. Leadership has, at these levels I have mentioned, have since then ceased to make impact on the daily life of the people. But I saw there was a narrow window, and I can tell in the last time and the first time I ever voted, I voted for only the LC3 and LC5. Because I knew that these were still positions that held. Because right now, Joe, even if you elect the best person to go to parliament that has over 500 members of parliament, and members of parliament have to beg for a chance to speak on the follow-up plan to submit, and even on the compulsory 3 minutes that they get when they are submitting on the so-called matters of national importance, what can you submit in 3 minutes that can be significant to make a national or regional impact where you come from?
So that means you're just like me, who believes our parliament actually needs to be trimmed from all the crazy numbers of MPs. Really.
Not only do I side with you on that line of thought, I also think that parliament has, in its current form and substance, has been used to facilitate the suffering of the people. Because if you ultimately think what our tragedies are, one of our biggest tragedies are like things like the removal of the age limit and the term limit. But parliament was ultimately used to achieve these things, and has since then been used for many other things. So I in fact, I hold the thought loosely that if we suspended our parliament for 2 years, we might be better off, because we'll move from negative to having no parliament. So I had thought that if I ought to make an impact, like I would love to, if I ought to contribute and give the people a test of effective leadership, then my chance is at local government. This was already a personal conviction. And my team and I were already having conversations on where do we best make our contribution.
Yeah.
And without a doubt, the mayorship was under consideration. So the ask of the elders was a huge push, but was not entirely the reason that I will be running for mayor of Arua City. Yes.
Well, as you know, you identify with the young people, given the fact that you're also one of them. And certainly that would mean that there are likelihoods that a good number of young people will as well rally behind you. It's a likely projection, whether we like it or not. But at the start of this podcast, we talked about political affiliations at the university, and I would also want to bring, as far as I'm concerned, you're a member of the National Unity Platform. When you look around West Nile, the projections in West Nile, the other day when I was talking to Honorable Batiku Bernard, he said there was a deliberate move by the NRM to unseat the entire opposition from West Nile. I think around 2 MPs survived then. First of all, are you still a member of the National Unity Platform?
Yes, I am.
Do you intend to contest as a member of the National Unity Platform?
Joe, in their finest form, political parties should be political schools of thought. And therefore you affiliate yourself with the ideology.
The school of thought, the ideology, yes.
Yes. You affiliate that best suits your personal beliefs. Right?
Yes.
Except for us in Uganda, political parties assume the character of their founding father. So DP has the diplomatic nature of Dr. Paul Makerere.
Yeah.
NUP has the agility of Robert Sentam.
Yeah.
NRM has the cunningness of President Museveni. FDC has the activism, at least FDC before had the activism spirit of Dr. Kizza Besigye. And because our political parties are not entirely schools of thought, what we have done in this country is that we have used them as political vehicles to go to where we are going.
Yeah.
Joe, at an appropriate time, you will hear from my team and I on our next course of action as far as political affiliation is concerned, especially for this particular agenda of Arua City mayorship. Wisdom demands that I do not give you a certain answer right now. But I can tell you this, that I have, for the longest time, I have been alive to political events. Believe that the people are at the center of it. That all these political parties, yes. In fact, if you ask me now, I will say my political party is Arua City. That the people of Arua City are right now the school of thought I belong to.
So what you're confirming to us is that you are undecided yet as to which vehicle you will be boarding.
What I am telling you is that I cannot give you an answer on this particular podcast, even when I would like to. But soon enough you will. Because that is now a matter of strategy.
Well, we'll be waiting to hear from you. But I think for now people will make their assumptions as to is this man changing the vehicle to a different color or what? That is up to the people now. But I will definitely wait to hear from you on the way forward. But I also wanted to get your thought on the, when you look at university politics, it's very vibrant. And most times when our young people come out here, that vibrancy dies a natural death. A few people survive and eventually take up positions of leadership or indirectly participate in politics, maybe as voters and so on. And you've been a leader at the university, and you're coming out here to do the same thing. I wanted to get your thought on the change of these dynamics. Why our young people showing vibrancy at the campus level, but when it comes to national politics, many of them actually shy away.
I wouldn't say shying away, but I would say the young people are pushed back because it's at university level, at least in students' politics, because students being a small group, at least you have referred to university politics.
Yeah.
University politics has a small group of the population that is educated, that is alive to their needs, that is alive to their challenges, and I can assure that in university politics, at least there's still a huge consideration for merit. So university students, university politics is not as commercialized as national politics is. University politics is not as ethnically oriented as national politics is. University politics is not as conscripted as national politics is. And therefore, there's some meritocracy in rising up. And therefore, a brilliant person like Joe stands a chance on grounds that he's capable. However, coming out here, there are different considerations. And I had said somewhere that it is almost as if the people want to buy a hoe, but measure the ability of the hoe to do digging on whether the hoe can cut a tree.
Yeah.
Albert Einstein will say they almost judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree. Because if you're electing a leader whose sole obligation is to help stir you and your aspirations to its achievement, to help the dreams of the people, to mobilize the society towards development, why then should be the ability of this person to give you 2,000 be a consideration? If you were electing a leader for the said purpose already, why should where this person comes from, whether he identifies with you, be an issue? Somebody was saying that that in our part of the world, when you are campaigning and tell people you're called Lawrence, they'll ask you what is your other name. And they're not asking so that they know you or know your both names. They're asking to determine where you come from, and that matters to them.
Yeah, true.
So that even if it is a thief, you say at least he's our own thief. But the challenge with that is that when the thief is finally chased from where he's stealing from, because stealing is his profession, he'll eventually come back and steal from home. So why many young people shy away is that the environment is extremely unfavorable for a young person who perhaps just stepped out of what you call the vibrant environment. National politics is highly commercialized, highly ethnic, and the young person does not probably have the resource basket to solve it. But that if in a thriving democracy, all these young people should transition directly. And then what they do is they get a side table to sit at. Many people ask me, why not NYC? Where you could easily win? Why not youth member of parliament? Why not any other? Why not the youth structure? Where perhaps it will be an easier shot. And I told them that people that firstly, if I did easier things in my life, Joe, you will not host me here. I will be unfit for you to host me here. But secondly, is that what young people have been given is a side table. And people have often said, I quote, that at the political table, you are either a diner or you're the one who is being dined on.
Yeah.
And the young people were being dined on for so long that the young people rose up. And what they did, they were given a table to sit at. So that when they have finished serving at the main table, they can then give them something to eat, like children who are unfit to sit at the main table.
Yeah.
All that we're saying is that age should not, a person's young age should not be a reason for which you shouldn't vote for them.
Don't you think now that you've talked about age, you've talked about the financial bit of it as well, won't this play a part as to the dynamics of the upcoming elections, especially for young people like you, who are contesting for offices with probably people who are a bit aged or are financially much better? Won't that change the dynamics of youth taking their place? Because we have the largest number of people in this country, you'd probably think that every discussion that we have, the youth must have a separate agenda.
Of course. To not be alive to these facts and not to consider their impact in in the next few elections that are going to happen in this country will be foolhardy of anybody that has political ambitions. However, at some point in life, you must decide, Joe, whether you want to participate, and the people must decide whether they want to participate in the politics of fear-mongering or the politics of hope, whether they want to participate in the politics of cynicism or the politics of opportunities. And I have, for my time that I have been in the political space, not based on fear-mongering or fear to make political decisions. If there is a good cause, even when all the odds hold against that decision, I think people ought to make that decision and pursue. Because there's a first time for everything, and things must change. One of the things that I heard the most is people saying that we come late because we're Africans, and provided we continue to say that, then things will be that way. So if young people continue to say politics is commercialized, young people don't stand a chance, then things will continue to be that way. Things are the way they are because we are the way we are, and somebody must take the first step to change things. And I am willing to be the front runner at upsetting the status quo and changing the odds. And so I can tell you that for as long as there's a God in heaven, and that for as long as you and I draw breath in our lungs, there will be a very young person as the mayor of Arua City. And Arua City is going to have an agenda. Because what we are going to do is that we do not want that young people are not, should not be, we call them special groups. They should not be in that category
that should
anymore.
Not be the case.
Because we are the majority. Any other groups will be special group compared to us. Any other groups will be special group compared to us. And so if we truly want that there should be that the agenda in this country or at our regional level should be inclusive of young people, then young people must seek the heart and attack the heart of the problem. And we are going for the local government, and we're going to demonstrate to people in 5 years' time that you stand a better chance electing a young, vibrant person who has not been frustrated by the political agenda, who is alive and whose aspirations perfectly represent the dreams of the young people. Because I often say that at the end of the day, however good your intentions are, Joe, you cannot fully understand the plight of people with disability. However good your intentions are, because you have no idea what it means to wake up in the morning as a person with disability and having to struggle to look for the door. You have no idea. However good of a person you are. So however good intentions the all tax claim to have, the truth is that they cannot fully understand, and have even demonstrated that not fully understand the plight of the young people who are the majority. And then the ultimate problem with this narrative I am shaping is that what you're doing is that you have then a big chunk of young people on your hands who you do not know what to do with. If you came home in the evening and you found your knife with a very sharp panga, if you came home and found your knife with a very sharp panga, if your wife does not deal in the business of pangas, you'll be scared.
True.
But if she perhaps has bananas that she's going to cut, you will not be worried. You have these young people on your hands that if you do not put them to be actively engaged and make contributions to society, because every human being must survive, they will find very undesirable ways of surviving to you. And ultimately, society will be, none of us will be happy, whether you're old or you're young. And in the context of Arua City, recently, the people snatching phones in broad daylight here in Arua City. I am glad the security came to the rescue of it. But could you point to any of those people who is above 35 years of age? All of them were below. And you see, Joe, nobody is born a thief. There's no gene responsible for theft. These are all creatures of society. And so, for whatever good we have, we must agree that we have created it. And we must be willing to seamlessly accept the responsibility, but moving forward, decide to do better.
Well, I'm quite sure that the young people in Arua City who are watching you right now would be very happy to hear from a young person who has a clue about their challenges that they're facing. And you've mentioned some of them. Most of the challenges that young people face are society made. They are not inborn with these challenges. But what do you think we need as a city, first of all? What do we need as a city to have a city that benefits the young people who are the majority, to have a city that is admirable by the rest of the country, and to have a city that is even beyond. What do we need as a city to really be on the map and be appreciated? Many people have been saying that, first of all, as a region, we've done so much for this government in terms of support, but that support has not been replicated. What is it that we are not doing right to draw the attention of those that have authority to look at us and say, you know what, these people know what they are doing. What are we doing? What are we not doing right as a city and as a region?
Thank you, Joe, for that question. And I'm going to respond to that question in two phases. First, we first need to define what kind of city we need to have. Hoima is an oil city.
Yeah.
Fort Portal is a tourism city. Jinja is an industrial city.
In the government Vision 2040, Arua is one of the regional cities we have in this country, together with Mbali and Mbarara as well.
There are 15, and so far 10 have been put.
So initially the regional cities were Arua, Mbali, Mbarara, the regional cities, including, of course, Kampala that covers, Gulu for northern Uganda. So basically we are regional cities. There are no special attachments to us, I guess, apart, not like tourism city, not like and so on.
What the point I'm making is that the point I'm trying to make is that we must give this Arua city an identity, right?
Yeah,
we must give this Arua city an identity. When you look at the life of our people, and I told you I was going to answer this question in two phases. I wanted to start like this: that even before, the Bible says you cannot put new wine in an old bottle, and you cannot put an old wine in a new bottle. Both will eat each other away, and you'll have a problem in your hands. That even before we invite for a new thing, we must have a conversation on what we have done wrong. Because, Joy, you see, even before you ask to chew more, what is in your mouth, have you chewed it well? There needs to be a conversation on the effectiveness of service delivery in Arua City. A conversation on what has exactly gone wrong. We are lucky that we're not yet at a point of havoc. We have a problem of garbage.
Yeah.
Even when we're not producing as much as we ought to. Right? Then you ask the question of how can we make this attractive? Secondly, we still have no problem of traffic. Even when our roads are small. But for how long will we not have it? We are still lucky that we do not yet have a housing problem. But for how long will we continue to have that? So, whereas we're not at the brink of havoc, it is important to have a conversation and set these particular things right. And so we could delve into the conversation. One, we could talk about zoning Arua City in terms of garbage and assigning and sort of having a departmental but also separated garbage collection. Divide the garbage into degradable, non-biodegradable, and chemical, and people collect them like that. Levy punishment. Human beings listen because of being punished. Levy punishment on poor waste disposal, but have an effective garbage collection system. That's what is going to make Arua City attractive as a commercial city. Secondly, when we come to traffic control, when you go to that road of Abattoir, it's a one-way.
Yeah.
But people use it even as a three-way, even as a one-way.
Okay.
For now, because I said the traffic flow is not as heavy, somehow we can overlook that. But soon we won't. And we don't have to get to that point to care about that. So we need to have a what I will call urgent, serious. And lastly, towards this, the first part of the question to make this attractive, is the issue of corruption. And corruption, I mean the corruption as multifaceted as it is. The people must decide on whether individual benefit matters more than the concerns of society. The people of Arua City need to make a decision. And depending on that decision, the people must make a commitment to fight corruption. Because like I said, there is the corrupt, but there's also somebody who facilitates the corruption. For somebody to be bribed, there must be somebody bribing them. Right?
Yeah.
And provided you still have to know somebody at the city to get a job. Provided You still have to have an uncle and auntie. Then we are not there, and we will not look attractive, as you say. Right? Therefore, we must crack down. But you see, this can only happen when you fight corruption, it fights back. And if you're one man, corruption will kill you. So it must be a group of people that decide to kick this entirely outside. So we must have that conversation and decide. And once we have done house cleaning, now do I think we'll be ripe to have this conversation? The reason I'm not delving to the problem so much is that the biggest problem I think we have in this country is that is how, first of all, is around our electoral processes. And among those is that we because you see, I have often said democracy makes a bold assumption on the democratic principle that the people should be led how by people they want, and how they should be led, so the people should determine that. That assumes that the people know how they should be led and how they should be led, who should lead them and how they should be led. But oftentimes the people have proven not to be so. But what we usually do around the electoral time is that we pick people who can state our problem. People who can. So what when somebody is running, even if he has been in office, he comes and lists all your problems in a very chronological and organized order. But just because, Joe, I know what your problem is, doesn't mean that I have the solution to it. The actual conversation is that because we are the people, we know our problems, don't we?
We do.
So I cannot, if I am hungry now, like I am going to be in a few hours, if you tell me I am hungry, that does not make you special as far as I am concerned, because I also know that I am hungry. The question is, what are you going to do about my hunger? How I wish that in the next election, the people must ask the question that whereas you have listed our problem as problem with garbage, service delivery, inconsistencies at administration and corruption, the question is, what exactly are you going to do, when and how? And the people must suggest urgent, serious, and critical, local, tailored solutions to their problems, not armchair strategies and ivory tower speculations. Those have proven not to work. And the reason I said that is the government one time went to Karamoja and built toilets for the people of Karamoja. But the people continued to not use the toilets. And the reason was that there's a cultural context in Karamoja. When an elder goes to ease himself here, you as the child does not go there. So there ended up being one person in the family who was using the toilet. But because that was not a local, the solution did not factor in. Those were AC room made solutions. We as the people of Arua City must have urgent. Now, to conclude, to summarize that question that you have asked, to say I'm running for mayor of Arua City is an understatement. I feel like it doesn't entirely capture the context. What we are doing, me and my team, is we are selling a dream to the people of West Nile. Because Arua City is the anchoring economic center for West Nile. The economic situation in Mande Okolo has a bearing. Okay, so the economic situation in Arua City has a bearing in Mande Okolo. The economic situation in Arua City has a bearing even in Koboko. And because those are the stakes, what we're doing is we are selling a dream to the people of West Nile. We're making very bold proposals and inviting the people to participate in this conversation, because it cannot be a one-man show. It just won't work that way. What we're proposing is a modern, commercial city that is by the common people, for the common people, not imported. If we have a mall at Arua Hill, how many stalls do the people in Arua City own there? Can the people in Arua City even afford to go there? Even when the mall was being constructed, how many people in Arua benefited from that entire process? So what we need to do is, because you see, whether we like it or not, Arua is hot cake because of our strategic location. And because Arua is hot cake, something good is going to happen. We can only delay it, we cannot deny it. It eventually is going to arrive. Our obligation is to prepare our people for that moment. I'll give you another classic example. We ought to fast track the upgrading of Arua Airfield into Arua Airport, right? And in our vision, we will, and it will come sooner than expected. But the question is, will our sons and daughters, what will they be doing at that airport? Sweeping? Or they will be the ones issuing out tickets? Will they be slashing? Or they will be flying the planes that land at Arua Airport? Or an air hostesses? So where is the Arua Flying School? their business is going to thrive, right?
Yeah.
But how are we building local capacity of our people to be able to be part of that thriving commercial city we're hoping to? Because you see, the life of our people in the context of Arua City, the people are not entirely agricultural. We are an entrepreneurial society, right?
Yeah.
From my home, if I take 10 homes in the northern direction, every family is doing something to survive. So what we needed to do for that, in terms of the preparation I'm talking about, is build a cottage industry. And at a later time, so you and I can dive into how this can be achieved. We can dive into cottage industry. And why I'm not giving specifics is, I told you, these are bold proposals, not impositions on the people. Now the people must participate in this conversation. Because you cannot lead the people without themselves. And a leader does not think for the people. A leader thinks with the people. My job, I feel like at this point, is to make these bold proposals and invite the people of Arua to join me and people of Western to join me in this conversation. And then we discuss the nitty-gritties. That if this is successfully solved, how do we participate? How do we time frame this? And have a checklist that in the next 2 years, this and that. In the next 3 years, this and that. But because you see, and the reason I asked us to prepare, Joe, is that for every good thing, even the best things on earth have consequences. But you do not stop eating meat, you buy a toothpick. Right?
Yeah.
I understand that people have fears around Arua being pronounced a city. Rightfully so, it will be foolhardy to ignore. Right? But you do not cut off the head because there's a headache. You treat the headache. And the best way to prepare is not to look at Arua City as an iron snake. There's the prophet in Kenya, prophet Kinzikitile, who had prophesied the coming of the iron snake. I don't know if you remember in all-level history. And he had predicted the iron snake to be a very bad thing. But the iron snake really was the train, which was at the time one of the most effective means of transport and changed the economy of areas where these trains were first launched.
Okay.
So we ought not to look at Arua City as an iron snake, right? We must discuss. We must decide to participate in the politics of hope and opportunities and prepare ourselves for that time.
Okay. All right. As we wrap this up, I would love to understand from you. I know you've talked about a lot of issues affecting the people of Arua City. And if all goes well for you and you take up the mantle and become the Lord Mayor of Arua City.
When all goes well.
Yes. Yes, when all goes well.
Yes.
We know government comes up with programs for its people. We've had programs like the Operation Wealth Creation. We've had programs like Emioga. We have the recent one, PDM. And government says our people need to be moved from subsistence to the money economy. How efficient, and do you think these programs are rightly so for our people to indeed uproot them from subsistence to the money economy?
Our problem, not just at the regional level, but at national level, has never been the insufficiency of government programs or the lack of thereof. In fact, it is said that Uganda is one of the best countries on paper. Our problem, Joe, has been implementation. Even before I come to the programs you mentioned, let us talk the new curriculum. It, in general terms, generically speaking, the new curriculum is an amazing thing because it better meets the current needs of our society, right?
Yeah.
However, its implementation is a mess. It is the exact thing I said. What we are doing is we are putting new wine in an old bottle. The teachers have close to no training in delivering the new curriculum. They're still using old textbooks. They deliver them. The new curriculum talks about where the students must go and make research. Half of our schools have no computer labs, and the ones that they have in West Nile have like 2-3 computers working out of the 10 that are stagnant and filled with dust. So our problem has never been the insufficiency of government programs. I told you the first thing we need to do, But you see, while we wait for things to get better at national level, we the people must do right by ourselves. Because one time while I was still at Makerere University, we were doing the construction. We were doing school outreach. So we went to school in Mariokolo. And we found a school that had 2 blocks. I will not mention the name. The school had 2 blocks only. So but they were newly built. They were fairly built compared to most of the schools. So I got interested. I went and looked up the school and compared the amount of money government had dissipated for the construction of that school to what I was seeing. The gap was alarming. And so I asked myself, where did the rain beat this school on this process? So whereas there are things like kickbacks at national level, ultimately we are doing the same things down here, Joe. We're doing the same things down here. Where the kickbacks for parish development go to our parish chiefs, isn't it?
Yeah.
Who are our own people? The atrocities being committed at handing out jobs are committed by our own people. So we must first give ourselves the moral authority to blame other people by first cleansing ourselves of all these things. And like I said, all those government programs at their initiation could be bearing goodwill. But those that are running that initiative need to know. Like parish development model. One of the people behind it is the former chancellor of Makerere University, Professor Suluma, a very brilliant gentleman, well-intended, well-read, well-researched, and well-traveled, right? So I would vouch that the intentions behind PDM were good, right? However, on the ground, what are we seeing? Even with the other government programs, beyond what you have mentioned, the vision bearers perhaps would have seen something, but they have helped achieve them. For so many reasons, among them is the evil that is corruption. And provided we don't deal with that, we will design very beautiful programs.
Okay.
We will design even the most amazing. We will continue to be the best country on paper, but the worst, right?
Yeah.
But the worst on ground, or
Yes.
one of the worst, if not to overstate it really, and paint us as people who do not have anything good. But the good news is that these things can actually change. Kwame Nkrumah said, "Seek first the political kingdom." All these things fall on the back of political leadership. So provided our people still vote for salt at the expense of good road infrastructure, that is going to be our story.
Okay.
Provided our people still vote because this one is my own, that is going to be our problem. So provided we keep doing things the way we are doing them, we will keep seeing the results that we are. And so for me, what I thought, and this is for me in a huge way, one of the reasons I wanted local government. Because you see, the local government touches directly the daily lives of the people.
Yeah.
How much money my mother pays in selling her kwete in Kirabu has so much to do with the local government. How much money my uncles pay here in town, or either as rent or as taxes to the local government, has so much to do with the local government, and what those taxes are used for have so much to do with. And I am of the thought, and I am of the dream that let us go to the local government, clean the local government, and then we can begin to have the conversation of what then can we add. Something happened when the late president of Tanzania became president. Magufuli did not actually do anything new. Magufuli did not even get loans or introduce new things. Magufuli simply did what he was supposed to do. That the existing things must function. And you see, Joe, if you can do that, then you become so fertile. You become so attractive in your own words that you are able to do anything else. I hold no resentment for these government programs. I do not detest them. I only detest the implementation methods and the manner in which, because you see, government is spending money. And many times our people think government is something somewhere. You get it? That you can even eat government like you're eating somebody's money. But that is your money. Government does not have business. Government does not generate money. Government does not own its own buildings. It's not the governments in UAE that sell oil, but even if they did, that's money of the people.
Yeah.
That salt that you're buying for 1,000 should have been without taxes about 800. The 2,000 you're buying is you're giving money to government that is collecting with the assurance that it's going to use this to provide you service that you can provide for yourself. Good road infrastructure, security, and all these things. And so you when these things are not a favor to the people,
Yeah.
you get it. This government programs, government is we should not. It's a good thing to be grateful, but we should not be on our knees worshipping those in government because they are doing these things. You get it? Because they're using your resources that you're paying to do them.
Yeah.
But while, like I said, my point is that while we will continue to demand for these things, let us first do right by ourselves.
Okay. All right. Lastly, from me, what is just to sum it up for the young people in Arua? What is your vision for Arua City? In just a few words. What is your utmost vision for Arua City as we conclude this?
The dream is this. The dream is to set up or to end up with the most modern, commercial, inland city on the continent by the common people, for the common people, with many and fair opportunities. That a city that is built at the back of the common people, not imported. A city that is entirely tailored to specifically meet the unique needs and suit the unique interests selfishly of our people. A city that is built not for you and I, Joe, who are seated here. We are the laborers. A city that is built for your son, who you're going to have in the next 7 or 5 years.
Or my daughter.
Or your daughter. But when the Bible says, I think when the Bible uses the masculine, it refers to feminine also. I will adopt the biblical context. A city that is built for the prosperity, for the posterity, those to come after us. A city that anticipates the current needs of our people, but better anticipate what they are going to be and prepares them for that time. A city that is a sense of pride for the entire West Nile. A city that is going to be the economic anchoring center for those deep down in Madokolo, for those in Arua district, for Malivura, for those in Koboko. A city that will give the people of West Nile, that we will escape build on the thriving border economy, using our unique position, that will help our people to escape this ridiculous, this daunting statistics of West Nile being the second poorest region. A city that will make you and Joe I proud to say that I am from West Nile.
Wow. Thank you so much, Lawrence, for making time, to join us as also Arts Concept. We're always thankful that we can come here and share issues that affect not only our city, but also our country as well. Well, for those of you who have been watching us, thank you so much for always watching the PoliChat podcast. We shall be back here next week on Wednesday with more content, local content to be specific. Bye-bye.